So to make sure the yellow stripes were the correct width, I measured the existing yellow stripes and I used some pieces of masking tape to kind of mark out the thickness around. So when I would go to put the next piece of tape on, I would just line it up with the points, and that way I could get an equal thickness of the line as it went back around the side of the fuselage. So this is just showing the first piece of tape. Actually, the second one, you can see a little bit of the first one on the bottom half there. But putting the tape around for the width of the yellow stripe, and again just lining it up with the points of the masking that I put on first. That flexible tape is kind of hard to get to lay down straight, but you just got to take your time with it and go slow, and just keep looking it over and take your time, and eventually you'll get it looking right the way you want it. And I'm actually masking off here to paint the blue. So the masking I'm putting on now is to separate the area for the white. So the next stage here will be putting the blue on. And then after the blue is painted, then we'll paint the yellow and black stripes. So once these areas get masked off the way I like it, and sometimes you got to peel it off and try again. Just like I said, take your time with it. But once these areas get masked, I then mask the top and bottom of the fuselage. The forward half of the fuselage will just be covered with like a piece of scrap, like a plastic bag or something, so I'm not taping the entire front half of it. And since I'm going to be painting the blue, I also want to mask off the logo on the tail section. So I printed a picture off, and using blue masking tape, just kind of transferred that picture onto the tail with blue masking tape. So that way when I paint the blue, that left with the masking will be left as white. So here we are ready for paint. So again, once the blue goes down, I'll peel the masking tape off of the tail, and it's been painted white underneath of it. And here's what it looks like, all painted in blue and ready for the next step. All right, so here's what this looks like so far. And as you can see, I got the yellow top and bottom and the black stripes top and bottom. And it does need some touch up. I still need to touch up some white right here. Now I just sprayed that black stripe yesterday, actually. So I'm going to let this set for 2 more days before I do any more touch up at all. Now originally I was planning on spraying some black on the tail emblem as well. If you remember, I'm going to have to do some black. The little, you see, the little airplanes get outlined, and do I still have a picture of that around here? What am I asking you for? You don't know. Kind of. You can kind of see, man, that's really dark. That's not going to show very well. But, yeah, you can't see that. But anyways, the little airplanes here, they get outlined, and the wings and the fin, they all get outlined with black, which is going to be like super skinny thin. And the mountains, the leading edge of each of the mountain peaks will get some black details as well. The mountain parts, I think I'll be able to do okay, but outlining the little airplanes, I honestly don't know yet how I'm going to do that. That's going to be kind of tricky. I had a thought of just taking a little skinny paintbrush and just very lightly, very gently, just by hand outlining around there. But I want it to look nice. So yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that. I'll probably use, this is the idea I have for now, but it might change. I'll probably use that liquid mask, the Easy Mask. I'll just brush that on both sides, just a nice even layer, and then go in with a new sharp knife and a straight edge and cut out, and then airbrush it that way. I think that's my best bet. And yeah, I got a little bit of touch up to do back here. That didn't quite turn out very well here. But it's coming out okay. So far, I don't see anything I can't fix. So, yeah, I'll get back with you later once that's done and some of the touch-up stuff is done. And we're almost ready to put some wings on and make the base. One thing, I don't know if you noticed or not, that panel came out, which those air brake panels, I don't know what is up with those things. They just don't want to glue in there. It's like there's very, very little surface area to glue onto. I've tried like 3 or 4 times gluing that thing in, and every time as soon as I get a little bit of tape on it or bump it, it just falls right off again. So I'm going to have to do something like mix up some putty or something and stick in there and press that down into there to lock that thing in, because I'm kind of getting tired of trying to re-glue that thing back in there. But yeah, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. But anyways, let me get back with you when I got some more done on it. So here's what that liquid mask looks like when it's all dry. It's kind of a translucent blue, so you can still see through it, which is good. And using a photo of the real planes paint scheme, I'm using that as a reference to go in and cut out the areas of that liquid mask that needs to be black. And once that's done, I'll just mask around all of that and paint it. Alright, I didn't record the process because I really didn't think I'd be able to get the camera in between my face and that. Using this thing to get as close as I could with a brand new sharp blade. Cutting into the liquid mask to remove what would be painted black. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that very well or not, but yeah, that was a real pain. After I cut that out, I masked around with blue masking, and I went around the edges of that tape with the liquid tape again, just to keep anything from bleeding under the tape. That was probably completely unnecessary, but you know, did it anyways. Other side is also done. So once that, oh, and also, I don't know if I mentioned before or not, it's easy to get air bubbles when you're brushing this on. You know, well, it's easy to get bubbles in it. So if there's a bubble and you don't take care of that, then the paint will get into that bubble and have little dots. So I went over all those bubbles with fresh liquid mask, same on each side. And hopefully, when I peel all that tape off, it'll look good. So the next step is I'm just going to mask the rest of the airplane. I'll just use plastic, scrap plastic from like a plastic bag to mask off the rest of the airplane. And then I'll just airbrush the black, let that dry for a bit, peel off the masking, and hope for the best. The main thing I'm concerned about is when I was cutting in that liquid mask and then peeling it off, I noticed sometimes the paint would flake. So I'm hoping that I didn't, and I was trying not to press too hard, but I'm hoping the blade didn't start flaking the paint, and so now when I peel off the masking, I'm hoping I don't have flaked edges around it. If I do, I'll have to figure out how to touch that up. But let me get this painted and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so that actually came out a little better than I expected, but not as good as I'd hoped, if that makes any sense. It needs a little bit of touch-up, and somehow I got a little bit of black overspray right here, which I think that will probably buff out or polish out, maybe. We'll see. Like I said, it's still have to do some touch-up. So, yeah, I think that works. Some of the touch-up I'll have to do is on the black lines right here. If you can see it on the top of the nose there, if that's going to focus. Let me see if I can get it to focus. Maybe. There you go. You can see a little bit of white peeking out of the edge of the black line here. So I have a few ideas on how I can fix that, on how I can touch that up and fix that. I mean, it's not very noticeable. I mean, to the naked eye, you can't really see it that well. But I still want it to be better. So the other side, this is actually the best side. The other side is okay, but it's just going to need a little bit more touch up. And this panel here, I still haven't glued that in yet. That may, yeah, it just fell out there. So I gotta bond that back in. Here's the other side, and again, that's going to need a little bit more touch up, and the little black line right here at the vertical, I need to redo that. That came off when I was picking out the liquid mask. So I'm fairly happy with that, though. That came out a little better than, you know, like I said, better than I thought, but not as good as I was hoping. I was hoping for it to be perfect, but I wasn't expecting it to be perfect. So the painting is pretty much all done, minus the touch-up. Like I said, I have to touch up some here where I screwed up and got some glue on my finger. Left a fingerprint, so I'll just have to mask off. We'll probably just mask a little pointy thing here. With that, I'm just going to mask off around here. There's a nice line I can use to mask. I'll mask that up against the black, and I'll just respray that white. Got a little bit of something here. I'm not sure if that's black overspray or what that is, but I'll have to buff and polish that out. And right here, and I still have some liquid mask on here I'll have to scrape off. Right, where'd it go? Right here? Right there, I'm going to have to kind of, I'm not quite sure what happened. I have to buff that off, sand that off. And maybe a few little points on the tip. I don't know, that's so fine and so skinny. I don't know if I really want to touch that or not. But, and I'll also add a little bit of washing, some black washing in the little vents right in here. I'll put a dark wash, and in some of these little vents back here, I'll put a dark wash, and same thing back in here. And I still have to put some decals right here and here for the German insignia, or the German flag, I should say. And that's probably about it. Like I said, maybe just a few little touch-ups, a few little highlights, and it'll be, oh, and back here, yeah, that needs to be fixed a little bit here. And on the bottom, I thought there was something on the bottom I had to fix, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, and I got to put the little hook right back here. So yeah, just a lot of little loose ends to tie up, a little bit of touch-ups and highlights, and it's pretty much done. Of course, the wings get glued in. I'll do that last. The wings are pretty much done painted. And I will probably go over the whole thing with a clear semi-gloss. Yeah, that's a semi-gloss clear. I'll go over the whole thing, well, except for the windshields, obviously, because I don't want it to be so shiny. When I look at photos of the real airplane, it's more of a semi-gloss and not a high gloss. So I'll do the whole thing with that. So, in an attempt to keep this video on the short side, I'm going to end this one here. The next video will just be probably like a really quick montage of all the touch-ups and final touches here, but focusing on the base that it'll be mounted to. And then after that, I'll have a final, like, part of that video. Kind of just a full 360 photos and videos of the whole thing completely finished. So yeah, I'm getting excited to get this thing finally done and sent off to my friend. So anyways, like I said, I'm going to end this one here. I think it's looking pretty good. And as always, thanks for watching.